Welcome to Parents Anonymous Podcast. I'm Tal.
Hi, I'm Rupali, and we're parents of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And today's topic is about healthy sleep habits for a new baby. So let's get into it.
The views on Parents Anonymous podcast are 100% ours, crafted with love, chaos, and whatever was left of our sanity after bedtime.
Okay, so today's topic is about healthy sleep habits for a new baby. And more specifically, we're talking about from a newborn all the way to 4.5, 5 months old, and really those initial stages and what are some fundamentals when it comes to sleep so that eventually you can get sleep as parents as well.
Very important because tired, sleepy parents aren't your ideal parents.
Yep.
So we want to make sure you folks are in your A game so that you can take care of that precious little thing.
And if you haven't caught our episode, if you have a new baby or even a baby that's up to 4, 5, 6 months old, catch our episode on Cherish the First 6 Weeks. And we are going to be referencing that same book today as well in some of the things that we talk about and when it comes to a baby's sleep. So first, let's talk about what's the normal amount of sleep that a baby sleeps in the beginning. And it's actually a lot. It's a lot of hours, and it's completely normal for them to do that. We also had where we were navigating different things when both of our kids were babies, and we had to just remind everyone around us they sleep a lot. A lot of naps, a lot of night sleep. So just a reminder that babies don't just sleep 8-10 hours, they sleep up to 16-18 hours, especially in the beginning, and they can only stay awake for very, very short periods of time. So it's important to remember that as well.
Yeah, it starts from day zero. And what we're going to talk about is what has worked for us and both our kids. At the same time, the family and friends that have had a child in the last year, they've utilized the same program via Helen Moon's book. So stuff we'll talk about, again, works for us. But if you have something else that worked for you, please do share with us as well, because I think having many different tools when it comes to a parent helps. And there's a lot of struggling parents out there that are looking for guidance and tried and true methods. So if you feel like this system is something you want to try, by all means, grab the book, reach out to us, or if your system worked for you, then please do share.
And we're also going to be talking about some things that parents say that, such as, oh, my baby doesn't like being swaddled, or oh, my baby doesn't sleep at night. She or he just sleeps very calmly all day and doesn't wake up. So we're going to talk about all of those things, because I think when I hear those things, I'm like, that's not true. That's actually you. Maybe it's in your head, or you're creating this for babies. So let's talk about swaddling. I feel like this is a big one. A lot of parents understand, I think, or need to understand what it means to swaddle a baby and why it's needed. So let's talk about that first.
Yeah, it's a very simple concept, actually, and we're all born with it, and it's called the Moro reflex. And it's just like random firing of like neurons in the body, and the baby's just getting used to all the different nerves and activating those different muscle groups. So you'll just see a baby and it's like like this like
Startled.
startled motion, right? Or they call it the startle reflex. And you gotta remember they were inside the womb for 9 months, tucked in, nice and snug, and there wasn't really much room for a lot of that movement. But if you're a mom that's been, pregnant before, and I know with when Rapali was pregnant, we saw a lot of the different movements that were happening, and both of our kids would, the kicking and what people like to always see. So this reflex is there, and it's there up until 4 months.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll hear at the 1 month or 2 month mark that, oh, my baby's so strong, or my baby doesn't like being swaddled. They're always crying when I try to swaddle them. And there's so many things that could be going on with that baby. It could be that they're just tired. That's why they're crying and they don't want to be swaddled. And they do have actually pretty strong muscles that they will sometimes fight out of it. So it doesn't mean that the baby doesn't need to be swaddled. We swaddled our babies right up till the 4 month mark. And then there was also a way that we slowly got rid of the swaddle and went to a sleep sack instead. And for the first, is it year or 2 years, that babies can't actually have anything loose in their beds. So it's important to know that as well.
Yeah.
That there's nothing in there, especially for the first year, that you're using a swaddle for the first 4 months or so. And then after that, you switch to a sleep sack. So the baby's still using a blanket, but it's not something that can cover their face.
Yeah, in our case, our daughter, being the older child, we had her in a sleep sack till 2 years old, till we were comfortable enough knowing that she could, have a blanket and know not to have it cover her face, and she has the ability to remove it if she needs to.
Yeah, and with the swaddle, it's actually normal for them sometimes to break out of the swaddle. We as adults, when we go to sleep, we move around so much. We turn and we twist and we adjust our blankets. So just in the same way, babies also move a lot in their sleep. So it is normal for them to, slowly have their hand, their arm come out of the swaddle. That's totally expected. And just know that with that swaddled, it is important because if they're not swaddled, it means that that startle reflex is what's going to wake them more than anything. So that's one way that you can just eliminate that they actually won't cry and then they'll stay asleep.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? And there's days you just feel defeated and you're like, why? But no, just try to keep resetting and getting through that. And the 4 month mark will come, and you'll feel proud that you made it and the baby made it, and you're already setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. One of the other things we did do in the beginning is other than following Helen's book, is also make sure that the baby is fed really well. In the beginning stages, you feed the baby every 2 to 3 hours. Slowly things shift where you start making the night feeds even longer and longer. So you go 4 hours without a feed, you go 5 hours without a feed, 6 hours, etc. And that's how you can slowly, through Helen's method, you can actually get full 7, 8 hours without the baby drinking milk. If you haven't caught the book, there is a 10 p.m. feed also that's very critical and important for the baby to fully drink that milk at 10 p.m. So again, they're full enough. And when they cry, in case they do, or they're, uncomfortable, etc., you know what the reason is, and you can eliminate that it's not hunger. One of the main things I know parents always worry about is that their child is hungry, and that's the only reason that they're apparently crying, which is not always true. So for us, it was important that we prioritized and ensured that our babies got full feeds. So we knew that it wasn't the hunger that was actually making them cry.
Yeah, if you can eliminate all the different variables, it makes it a lot easier to kind of see why the baby's crying. And not only that, though, you're tired on top of that. So you want to be minimizing all those different things while you're not at your best.
Yeah. So making sure, again, you're having full feeds, making sure that you do really good burps, especially in the beginning. It's so important, and all of that. So then you can then ensure that your baby is sleeping. One of the things with babies when it comes to sleep, I've always said this in the beginning, and I would say to Tal that sleep is food for that baby's brain. So as the baby's growing developmentally, there's such a new world. They're learning all these different things. They're seeing all these different things. They're interacting with you in different ways. That sleep is going to help their brain develop even more.
Mhm.
So that sleep is so important that we prioritize that for them. And these healthy habits that we're creating, healthy sleep habits that we're creating for them now, is what's going to carry them into the point when they slowly have sleep regressions, when they have different developmental milestones that can affect their sleep. But these things, if you do them in the beginning, it's actually going to help you in the long run, even into their adulthood.
Yeah.
Those healthy sleep habits.
At the end of the day, as humans, the one thing that I believe strive on is consistency. For one, I think
Yeah,
having those
very true.
good habits, consistent sleep times, even up until now. Like, I'm in my mid 30s and I need that good, solid sleep. And in the last, I would say, year or so, you and I have like a strict bedtime routine, same time. And I've found that my days are a lot better. So now, as you translate that to a baby from day zero, starting those habits, you're not playing catch up like someone me who's now having to readjust that. And obviously, there's different variables if
Yeah.
you're working shift work and all that, but you can still get the benefits. And the other thing I want to mention that's very important for a newborn all the way up through to the 5 month mark is the circadian rhythm. So all of our bodies operate on that day night schedule. That's what it's meant to be for humans, and other animals are, you'll hear the word nocturnal, like owls, for example, or bats, who are, their nighttime is their daytime. So for us as humans, we're not nocturnal. We strive on that circadian rhythm. So having the environment set in that nursery is very key as
Huge.
well.
Yeah. And speaking of environment, you read my mind as I was thinking about what does daytime look like when it comes to sleep for the baby for the first 4 or 5 months, and what does nighttime look like. So in the daytime, when that baby's sleeping, you actually don't want to close the blinds. You want to keep it bright. You can make noise around. A newborn will sleep through anything, guys. So don't worry about it being quiet. Don't worry about necessarily using sound if you want. But there is a difference when it comes to the evening time after 7 p.m. So 7 p.m. you do a feed
Hmm.
for the baby. You do a like you said, a bedtime routine that's very consistent. There's the same music that's playing. Maybe it's like a nighttime, some sort of a music that you're used to or some sort of a sound. And then getting that baby swaddled and into their bed. After that, you whisper. You don't turn on the large light into their eyes. You have to teach that baby the difference between day and night.
Hmm.
The baby doesn't know. So sometimes when you hear parents say, "Oh, my baby sleeps all day and doesn't sleep at night just wakes up every 2-3 hours." Actually, that's us creating that. If
Yeah.
you let that baby sleep, they'll keep sleeping.
Yeah.
The baby doesn't know how or when to wake up. The only reason they may wake up, there's different reasons, but if you let that baby sleep for 5-6 hours in the day, they will.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning, they require a lot of sleep, and sometimes they actually require you to wake them up as a parent to make sure they're fed well and they're fed in general, because otherwise, they're not gaining weight
Yeah.
and growing. But that differentiation between daytime sleeping or nap and nighttime, you want it to be quiet, you want it to be dark. Those things are really important.
Yeah, and if you look at the baby, oh, they look so cute sleeping there. Oh, I don't want to wake them up. But no, it's very important that if you have a timeline set and if you use Helen's schedule or someone else's or made your own, like stick to it. Like if they're sleeping away, gently wake them up and, go through your routine. Is it time for a feed? Is it time for play? All that. And just keep that day in, day out. And they actually pick up that schedule really quick.
Yeah. The sooner that you teach them the schedule and the routine, the more they'll used to get and the quicker
Yeah.
they'll get used to it. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and actually mostly for Tal here, but it's going to be the temperature of the room and the temperature of the baby. One of the things I know we worry about a lot, depending on the time of year it is the baby too warm or is it too hot? Like, what is the right temperature for that baby? And if you have the ability to set the temperature in their nursery, like, what should it be? What is the right amount of layers? So let's talk about that.
Yeah, right off the bat, temperature-wise, they recommend 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know the Celsius off the top of my head right now, but you can ask Google
Yep.
to convert that over for you. But 68 degrees Fahrenheit is the ideal temperature. Studies or some literature recommend a fan as well. They say that it minimizes risks of SIDS, but at the same time, that's totally personal preference. If you want air movement in there, we don't have a fan going in ours, so we chose not to. You can utilize a humidifier as well, depending on your climate, just to get some moisture in the room if it's too dry. Again, what time of year it is, all that also plays a factor. If you're living in a drier climate, then I highly recommend using a humidifier. And then for clothing wise, they always say if you're wearing one layer of clothes, then they recommend for a newborn or a young baby is an extra layer, 1+1, right? So if you're wearing 2 layers, is that cold in your home? Then 3 for them.
Yep. And the swaddle will count as one layer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then there's the other side of it is you can the toques for especially a newborn. Uh, Most of our heat loss in our body comes from our head. That's where it goes. Our limbs, our fingers, they don't lose a lot of temperature. And then usually we all have clothes on, so head is where it goes. You can feel the back of their head as well to feel if it's super cold or super hot, the neck. And then that means you need to adjust some sort of layers or the temperature of the room as well.
And I've seen also sometimes that people will use toques inside.
Mhm.
I don't think that's necessary personally. Like, you can wrap them up in a blanket or something like that. But definitely, if you're going outside,
Yeah.
that toque is really important.
Yeah, kids can overheat really quickly. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It happens so quick, especially at a newborn stage, that you just want to be mindful of those toques and extra layer of clothing. And again, like Rapali mentioned, at least up until 2 years, they don't recommend anything else in that crib. You increase your chances of SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome, right? So I might have got the acronym wrong there, but yeah, it's a real thing. You don't want anything that's super loose. So even if you have a halo, be mindful of their recommended weight and length on those because you don't want extra loose clothing around their mouth because at that stage they can't remove it
Yeah,
themselves.
you want it to be the right amount here. And
Yeah.
usually actually companies have gotten really good at making sure they make swaddles and sleep blankets the right size for the baby. And usually it's according to pounds is what you want to go off of,
Yeah.
just to make sure that they can't cover their
Yeah.
face.
And we do want to add as a slight disclaimer to this as well, is there's other factors that can affect sleep, like GERD and colic and all that. That we'll discuss in another episode. But today you're looking at just the basics of setting up for success for good sleep habits.
Yeah. We kind of touched on this earlier, but let's talk it about a little bit. Let's talk about it a little bit more. And it is important to do that is a consistent bedtime routine
Hmm.
when it comes to before their night sleep. And this is important more than nap times. Nap times you do things a little bit quicker. You know, when you start seeing the signs, oh, the baby's yawning or they're drowsy, that is the right window that you want to catch and you want to help them fall asleep. You want to try to focus on their wake windows and making sure you're following the right wake windows. If they're not meant to be awake for longer, even if you have visitors, even if it's hard, even if you're out, try your best to help that baby fall asleep because once they get overtired, it's game over. But back to the consistent bedtime routine, it's important to create those consistent habits and that consistent routine in the beginning. So
Hmm.
for you, it could mean bath time. If that's something that you're doing, you want the special music, whether it's some sort of a lullaby or something to play in the background. And we always had, I think it was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but just the instrumental version. So we
Yeah.
would always have that playing for both of our kids. That it again, it's some sort of a a trigger and a reminder for them that okay, it's bedtime is coming. And we would always do bath, then we would do lotion, then the feed would happen at the end, and then after a good burp or so, etc., that's when we would swaddle and put them to bed. It was always the same routine every day, every night. And if you're not doing bath, you could do like you can do a wash basin and you can just use washcloths and things like that. So whatever that looks like for you, it's important to have that really really consistent, and that using that crib for us, we use cribs for our babies right from the beginning. We didn't use they didn't sleep in our room, they didn't sleep on our bed, they slept in their own cribs, especially for that bedtime. And then usually, especially in the first 4 months or so, that after the 7 p.m. feed, they are in their crib, and then after 3 hours it was a 10 p.m. feed, which we would make sure they were fed a full feed. Sometimes it's hard to wake them up, and sometimes you know when you're near the end, when it's usually the 3 or 4 month mark, when they start drinking less and less milk and they'd rather just sleep, so slowly you start decreasing the ounces, etc. Again, refer to Helen's book, guys. It is the best thing that we have found so far, honestly, when it comes to caring for newborns. So please do that, and then after that you are expecting the baby to sleep. If you feed them well, if you have a good consistent routine, you're giving them the right cues and the right structure, they will fall asleep and they will stay asleep.
Just to add to that, the tool that we use, it's called the Hatch. So Hatch. Hatch. It's there's an app for it as well. So it's a little sound machine. You can use other versions, other models as well, or other companies. But for us, it worked, and we recommended it to our family and friends, and some are using it. You actually just set the schedule right in there, and you can have multiple hatches. So for us, obviously, we have two. I highly recommend the Wi-Fi model, not the Bluetooth one, which is the first one we had, because the Wi-Fi one allows you to make adjustments when you're not home as well, especially if you have someone babysitting for you. So you can have that, and also has a baby monitoring feature in there as well. So highly recommend that. We use it for the sound, like Rapali mentioned, with the lullaby, and then we picked a white noise sound that plays during that sleep, which is very important as well. And then the lighting. So for the first, let's say, like 1 month, we use just a red light that starts because we're in and out of that room so much for feeds and diaper changes. But as you progress to that 10 p.m. feed and there's no more feeds for the rest of the night, then we just go dark in the room. It's like fairly dark.
And the 10 p.m. feed, let's talk about that for a sec. The 10 p.m. feed is a night feed. What was the exact name for it? I forget now.
Dream
A
feed.
dream feed. So a dream feed really means that when you go in there, you're not going in loudly, you're not turning the light on, you're going in very gently, you're picking up that baby, get them in your lap, and get them to awake enough, just awake enough so they can start drinking the milk. You want them to try to finish the milk. If in between they get too sleepy, it's important to either unswaddle them or kind of help them wake a little bit so they can finish that milk. It's so important
Yeah.
too.
No, exactly. And even if you have to go in and troubleshoot why the baby's crying, we highly recommend you stick to that same program that Rapali just mentioned about the whispering lights at a low. If you need to turn some on, put on that hatch light, bright red, and it's enough light for you to navigate, and your eyes will adjust as well. And that consistency, that just keeps telling the baby that it's still nighttime. There's nothing else going on. If you need a diaper change or whatever you need to do, you can get in and get that. And sometimes babies get sick, and you might have to follow doctors, recommendations. Up to the 3 months, they don't recommend Tylenol unless the doctor advises. So please follow their direction on that. But for whatever reason you need to go in, just keep that consistency.
There's three more points that we need to talk about. One of them is motion. The second is drowsy but not, asleep. And then the third is how often or how quickly do you jump in to go to that room. So first, let's talk about motion. So for both of our kids, we did not use any sort of I know there's special machines you can get that have motion and swinging so that it helps the baby fall asleep. I don't believe in that. We don't believe in that. So for us, what we did is not use that at all. There was no rocking. There was no taking any special like steps or ways or swinging or anything like that. So we both don't believe in that. And it's important that if you do use that, then you think of a plan. How are you going to gradually reduce that so the baby doesn't get dependent on that motion to help them fall asleep?
Yeah. Helen lays it out best, and it's just the consistent putting down. You can reassure them, talk to them gently, depending on the time of day, and they might cry. And there's just a moment in there where you might have to do it like 4 or 5 times. And she
Yep.
talks about that,
Yep.
where you just have to, again, be that consistent. Remember that they're learning. This is new to them, right? They were so used to being in a cozy womb for 9 months. And now what? You're putting me down somewhere, and
Alone.
yeah. And the other thing is, which is a really cool thing that I learned. So babies are born with an innate fear of falling. And the key is when you're putting the baby down and they're all nicely swaddled, you've done a good job with the swaddle, they're calm, they're fed, the diapers changed. When you put them down, you want their feet or their heels to touch the mattress first
Mm.
before the head. If you go head first, it gives a feeling of falling, which could startle them. It's a thing. Look it up. So feet have it touch, and then gently put them flat on their back. That is the only recommended method up until when the baby starts rolling and doing their own thing in the crib. Is to be on their back flat. Again, for SIDS, do not place your baby in any sort of incline or anything like that. Keep them flat.
I'm smiling because it happened to us a few times when our babies were being watched. I think it was our daughter. And, they would put the baby down and they say, oh, it's better if they sleep on their stomach. It's good for their digestion and it helps them sleep better. That's absolutely not true. That's a
No.
complete myth. They need to sleep on their back. Back is best
Yeah.
when it comes to babies. And we use the Halo swaddles. Those are the best swaddles. And the sleep sacks, we still use the sleep sacks for, the Halo company. So they have a saying too that back is best. So just a reminder and for safety, make sure that you put the baby on their back.
Yeah. I even recommend, we had an episode where we talk about what to bring to the hospital for when baby's being born. You can buy those swaddles, the Velcro ones, like right away.
Yeah.
Or if you're like Rapali, who's just a pro that can swaddle any baby with just a sheet, like great. But for me, the Velcro ones work best.
And they're nice and snug. So
Yeah.
it's much harder for them to fight out of that one
Yeah.
than the other ones. So next thing we want to talk about is drowsy but awake.
Hmm.
So what does it mean to put a baby down drowsy but awake? Watch them like a hawk in the beginning to learn what their cues are when they're getting sleepy. We know that there's different awake periods for babies. So it might be 1 hour, it might be hour and a half, whatever that time is. When it gets close to that time, watch that baby. If they're starting to yawn, if they're starting to look away, if they're starting to just like have this like glazed look in their eyes, it means that they're sleepy. Do not ignore that. And that's hard when it's you and you're tired. That's why you do
Yeah.
it together. And during that time, catch them when they're drowsy. That is the best time that you can help them, get them swaddled and get them into whether it's a bassinet or a crib. That would be the best option. And keep doing that every day. Keep reiterating to them that if you're sleepy, you're going to go in your bed. You're not going to be fully asleep in my arms
Yeah.
and then be put down. And then you also have the risk of them waking when you do that. I mean, we've all had that when they're fully asleep in your arm. And as soon as you put them down, they start, they start waking up and they start crying again. And you have to repeat it again. Or sometimes you do contact naps with them too.
Yeah.
So, reminder that try your best to put that baby down when they're drowsy and not fully asleep.
Yeah. And that's just, again, that constant teaching of, you're falling asleep on your own, and that's part of that healthy sleep habits. If you do, for some reason, get into that cycle where now all of a sudden you have a baby dependent upon you, don't worry, it's not end of the world. And if you've got that glazed look like I had as well, not only does your baby have that look, you do too because you're exhausted. It's not too late to just start the training again and get them to sleep. They might cry, pick them up for a sec, console them, put them back down, and you might have to do that, 4 or 5 times.
And there's some days where you're right, you're too exhausted to try, and that's okay. It's not perfect. You don't have to get it perfect. It doesn't always work. Sometimes, depending on what is going on with babies, they're actually not that simple. They can be quite complex
Mm-hmm.
babies. So, depending on what's going on with them, it's okay if try, and if even if it's one nap a day. That's why I always start. Don't start with a big milestone that you want. You just start with one nap. For one nap today, our goal is to make sure that we put that baby down drowsy but not fully asleep. If you can master that drowsy but not asleep and putting them down in that way, and for them to fall asleep, that is the exact way that you're going to teach them how to fall asleep on their own. That's the best way you can teach them, because again, that baby's drowsy enough and they're learning that, okay, I can lay in here and I can put myself to sleep without being fully asleep and then put down.
Yeah. And there's exceptions to that. We all have busy lives, and lives do happen. So if you're out and let's say there's a wedding in your family, or there's no way of leaving your baby at home with someone watching them, there might be the odd time where, yeah, you'll have to contact nap them. And again, what contact nap means is you're holding them till they fall asleep. Um, just like Helen says in the book, it's like you got to get, as soon as you're home, you're back at it and you're back to being consistent with that training.
Yeah, and sometimes it can happen, as we when you're out, you have the car seat, and cars are great for helping babies fall asleep. We didn't have to use that, thankfully, for both of ours, because we worked really hard in the beginning to make sure that we were teaching them how to
Yeah.
fall asleep independently.
Yeah, you probably see those funny memes online where it's like your baby's trying to fall asleep in the car and you're like trying to keep them awake because you don't. Again, you're trying to reinforce that they're gonna fall asleep in their,
Yeah, in their bed, in their
in
crib.
their crib. Again, exceptions are, if you're on a road trip or driving somewhere far for an event, then by all means they're gonna fall asleep.
The next point we'll talk about, which almost touches on the topic of sleep training, which again we'll talk about in another episode, is jumping up and going in to their bed, into their crib, into their room as soon as they make the slightest squeak or noise.
Yeah, we all been guilty of that, I think, at some point. And if you're going through it now as you listen to this episode, don't worry. You don't want your child to be in any sort of discomfort or distress. But the thing is, you gotta give it a few seconds in time. We all move. We all make sounds when we're sleeping. We just don't know because we're asleep. So it's completely normal.
And this is way more common if you're a first time parent.
Yeah.
Just because you have that extra stress and anxiety and responsibility that you're feeling for that baby. So it's completely normal. Just know that babies make little noises, honestly, all day, all night long. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. Sometimes they'll do a little scream cry and then you want to jump in. But we've had it where as soon as you open the door, they're back asleep again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Helen, in her book, in the Cherish the First 6 Weeks, reminds you that every little noise they make, take a few seconds to go in. And if that's hard for you as the mom, or if that's hard for you as a dad, then take breaks,
Yeah.
right? And be on the same team with each other. Helen also uses, she says, count to 10 rule. So before you go in, and I would do that. I don't know if you ever did that. I think
I
you
did
were,
too.
yeah. So we would just
Yep.
count to 10 before going in. That's when you know that there's either they've broken out of their swaddle, or maybe they need a diaper change. Who knows? But or they have a burp that they need to get out. Whatever it is, just important to wait those 10 seconds before you go in and you jump in. Because if we do that, again, we're slowly creating that reliance that, oh, as soon as I make a little noise, you're gonna come, where you actually would be disturbing their sleep.
And babies actually have this amazing sense of someone's in the room, or they also can smell their mom and they can smell milk. It's really cool. Like we lose obviously those senses as we get older. So having them realize, they're okay, they're safe, but they're on their own. As soon as you're busting through that door like a SWAT team, they like, okay, I get this. So if I'm not, want to cry, my parents are gonna show up. So again, that consistency, count count to 10 if you gotta. And like Rapali mentioned, we'll talk about sleep training, and that doesn't happen till month 5. It's not easy, it's tough, and we'll talk about why it's especially tough on mom. So if you're a partner or dad, you'll play a crucial role when it comes to that stage.
Yeah, and babies also have this awake sleep, we call it, where they're actually turning a lot and they're making noises, but really they're asleep. So if you're the parent and you're like, oh, the baby needs me, I need to go check on the baby, they actually don't. Sometimes parents go in and actually disturb their sleep cycle because they're going in between sleep cycles, so they have this awake sleep, and you think, oh, they need my help, when they're actually really sleeping.
Exactly. There's different levels of sleep, just like we have in adulthood. But for us, we cycle through those sleeps not as frequently. Whereas as a baby, going from like light sleep to REM sleep, they'll go through those like a lot
Yeah.
quicker.
And they're
Yeah.
shorter and they go back
Yeah.
and forth. Yeah. We're not suggesting that if your baby is screaming or they're crying really hard that you don't go in the room. No, we're saying if there's those little noises and squeaks that they're making, try to wait before you go in. Of course, if your baby's screaming or if they're crying extremely
Yes.
hard
Tend to them.
and you feel like they're in pain or something, please attend to that baby and figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
But when those little squeaks and tweaks they make, just give yourself a
Yeah.
few minutes.
Especially up until again end of month 4, and then we'll in another episode get into what month 5 and sleep training looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, guys, give yourself grace. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's hard. It's hard work. And both of us, Tal and I, knew it was hard work. And I have to say, with our second, we were a little bit more lax. I was a little bit more lax just because we knew what to expect. We knew that we would eventually, help him create these healthy sleep habits that that we had already practiced with our daughter. She was kind of the practice one. And then for him, it was a little bit easier. I did take more contact naps with him when I wasn't so stressed that, oh my God, he's going to get used to these contact naps. And he didn't. And it was
Mm-hmm.
okay. So just give yourself grace, as we wrap this up, give your baby grace. They're learning, you're learning. It's all new and it's hard work. And if you can slowly do these things, create small goals for yourself and your baby. And as you go through, things will get better.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll sleep again.
Yeah.
And it's going to be okay.
Yeah, eventually they'll be 18 and off to college and you can sleep.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's just like Reply said, give yourself grace, be patient. You'll have those glazy days. Some days I'm glazed over too, and it's just like, man, you feel defeated. But knowing that, I have a great partner like Rapali and we're in this together, I'm not alone. We have other help like grandparents around as well who help. Um, utilize that, and if you need guidance, reach out to someone. Like we always mention, you're not alone in this. Have someone and reach out to us. We're always around.
Yeah, and we love hearing, especially those newborn stages, the first 4 or 5 months. If you want our help, please let us know. I really think there's a lot of information out there, but hopefully the few resources that we've shared with you will link below. The book will link the hatch again for you. So have a look at those if you find those helpful. And as always, please give us some feedback on these. Hopefully you find these helpful. And we will, in one of our next episodes, eventually, we will talk about maybe the top 10 products when it comes to a newborn that you need and we think that you need when it comes to their sleep and all of that. So we'll eventually do that one as well. So a few more good episodes coming up, especially for new parents. If you have that newborn or that, month 2, 3 month old baby, we love talking about that. And we will, as we slowly transition, we'll talk about topics that are a little bit more general or more thought provoking, interesting topics, and do some practical ones. So you'll see a balance of both as we go along. So, with that, thank you so much, guys, for listening as always, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.